Hello. I wanted to talk about politics stuff today. And if you don't like that, you can go watch any one of the other, 2 or 3 videos I will be uploading this week. You have no shortage of content to enjoy. That being said, if you can leave a comment below calling me a commie soy boy or whatever it is you want to do to make me mad, please do so. It really helps the algorithm. This video is really for... it's really for the libs and the leftists and I guess some of the independents. I do have pitches for my conservatives. I do love y'all. And that pitch would probably involve me ranting about Obama for 15 or 20 minutes. But that's not what we're going to do today. Today I want to talk about, small business owners. Small distillery owners, small distributors, small retailers, and their politics. Because I think they're gettable. About 6 months ago, I did a video called Primary Everyone. And this is essentially that same video, except I'm kind of flipping it upside down. But I felt like I needed to update it a little bit. All right, so we're going to talk about that because I think there's good news. I think those folks are actually gettable under conditions. But before I get there, we have to talk about some bad news. And then some good news. And then some more bad news. What's the first bad news I'm going to talk about? Well, first of all, I'm enjoying my new bottle of Founders Blend from Chicago Cane Cooperative, along with a big old glass of water. So I will tell you. I'll tell you what I knew. I will tell you when it sort of existentially hit me where we were. Towards the end of August. Coming into September, there was a period of about a week when Trump disappeared. He didn't do any press conferences. He wasn't doing those talks by a helicopter or by a plane that hurt to listen to. He was just gone for a while, and then everyone was like, "Something going on? Something happening?" And then there were like bags being thrown out the White House window, and everyone was all Is he sick? Is he dead? Did Trump die? Oh, that might be really bad. It could also be good, but it might be really bad. What does this mean? What is going to happen? And so there was this period of 2 or 3 days when there was just wild speculation because we didn't know anything. There was no Trump to see. There was just weird shenanigans afoot. And we were all just, spinning our wheels. And then, of course, he did a press conference when he came out to talk about, I think it was where Space Command was going to be or something. And we all kind of went, oh, okay. I have had enough conversations with extended family who live under Soviet rule. And, friends and colleagues here in Chicago who lived under various kinds of regimes. That feeling, that is authoritarianism, brain. We are there. That is where we are right now. That is what it feels like. Because authoritarianism, it does not feel like triumph of the will. It does not feel like, 1984 and all thoughts, controlled by the great leader at all times. No, authoritarianism feels pretty normal most of the time. You wake up in the morning and, you make yourself a cup of coffee, you walk to the grocery store, and it's just that you have at any moment kind of the expectation or the you're keeping an eye out for one of your neighbors being dragged out of their house by guys in masks and shoved into a car and never seen again. You're expecting maybe that when you get to the store, all the orange juice is just gone or costs 3 times as much because someone in there's a policy, maybe someone in the produce industry made someone angry, or maybe the shop owner might tell you, "Oh, didn't you hear? We are now invading Indonesia." And if any of this happened, you would just kind of shrug and say, "I guess that's another thing I have to deal with." But even if it doesn't, you're always looking out for it. The wheels are always spinning because you don't know anything. And anything can happen, and you are just wildly speculating at all times as to what could be coming. That is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. We are there. This is now an authoritarian country. All government programs, departments have been moved pretty much under direct presidential control. The president has seized for himself the power to tax, tariffs, to kind of move money around the government however he would like. He has, for a long time coming, the executive order has long since replaced the law as kind of the normal way to make policy changes. And of course, he is perfectly able to execute anyone he wants, whenever he wants, regardless of whether there's a war on or not. So all the powers of Congress have pretty much been taken over by the president. The courts seem to maybe be holding firm for now. We'll see how long that lasts. There is constant leaning upon institutions, businesses, law firms, universities, media companies. It's not always working, but it is slowly working. I was at the gym the other day, and they had CBS News on, and for some reason they trotted out Stephen A. Smith, of all freaking people, to come out and tell me, by the way, the best thing that we could all possibly do is just give the Republicans everything they want. And it was like, bro, I'm used to hearing bad sports takes from you. What is this new thing about bad political takes? Anyways, that is all happening. There are military troops on the streets of our cities, my city. And also there is a literal masked, anonymous secret police with no controls on them, and with a serious case of mission creep. Like, these ICE and Border Patrol started out, they were supposed to be dealing with dangerous criminals who also happen to be undocumented immigrants, which is already kind of dumb. Like, we have cops to take care of dangerous criminals. You don't need to have like a masked, barely trained paramilitary group of meter maids to take care of the dangerous criminals who also happen to have parking tickets. So that's already dumb. But now at this point, they have been pretty much zip tying anyone they want, tear gassing anyone they want, even shooting anyone they want, up to and including U.S. citizens. So yeah, we are there. We are most definitely there. And if you're one of those people who's like, no, we're not there yet. It might be looking pretty bad, but things are. You shouldn't use the A word yet, because the courts are kind of resisting still. They're at least slowing things down, and you still have a platform like this owned by Google to talk about these things. And that's totally true. There's pockets of resistance in every authoritarianism you can think of. What use are you providing to those pockets of resistance by saying, everything's kind of still fine, mostly? Like, I feel like I have more to talk to against the people who are like, yes, this is authoritarianism and it's good, than I do with the people who are just like, well, you can't really say you've had your head dunked underwater until you're drowning. So that is the bad news. That is the very bad news. Now, I would stop short of most of the people, many of the people watching this on the left probably, in that I would not call this fascism. And I'm not just saying that to be pedantic. I don't think it's the right word. I don't think it's the right concept or the right way to think about that. I don't mean you shouldn't be studying the history of Italy and Germany and Spain. You should be looking into that because I guarantee you they are studying that history. However, and I'm not just being pedantic about this, I don't think this is a fascism because it's a different kind of scam. Every authoritarianism is a scam. It's a hustle. Someone's making a ton of money. I take that as axiomatic. And in order to understand the nature of the authoritarianism, I think you have to understand the nature of the hustle. Who is making the money and how are they doing it? And in classic good old-fashioned fascism, it's very clear that the money people, the high rollers, were the industrialists. I mean, there was some bankers, real estate people in there too, but it was really the industrialists who were the rich people. Good rum. And the scam was, very simply, make a ton of money by building the war machine that conquers Europe. That was it. It was make money through military Keynesianism, government-funded production of a ton of military stuff. The problem with that is eventually you have to go to war, and that causes all kinds of problems. But that's the model. What is the scam in the current situation? I mean, who are the high rollers? Who are the people with money? If I had to use one word to describe them, I would call them the bros. So you're talking tech bros, finance bros, crypto bros, real estate bros, insurance bros to the extent that there is such a thing. The word broligarchy has been thrown around, and that's essentially what we're talking about. These people do not make their money through production in the same way that the industrialists do. How do they make their money? Through extraction, basically, through asset ownership, through financial shenanigans, pump and dumps, poop and scoops. Basically, when in a changing environment, in a chaotic environment, just being able to outcompete normal people through sheer massive money. And once they get even more assets, more money, they can do that even more. So essentially, the bros make their money through chaos and misery. Like, that's the play. It is not through production. I guess the military industrialists also eventually cause chaos and misery, but it's a ways down the road. The reason why I point this out is, again, not to be pedantic. It's because I want you to understand that the dynamics of this. Old-fashioned fascism has cards it can play to get normal people on its side. Hitler could give people health care. Hitler could get people, decent paying jobs. Fascism tends to be extremely popular when, it first crops up because, the first couple of years of military Keynesianism at least feel really good. And hey, if your neighbor's just been disappeared, it's a lot easier to get over that, if you're able to pay the bills at the end of the month. So Trump and the Republicans do not have that card. By the nature of who he is and who is supporting him, I don't think he can play those kinds of cards. Which means he will just never have popular support in the same kind of way. I don't think these people, the bros, even have the concept of maybe scraping some crumbs off the table so that the normal people can enjoy it and live, So yeah, I make that distinction. I think it's a very important distinction. I don't know what you call it if not fascism. I've started throwing around the word broligarchy. And if you like that term, I think it's a useful term just to make a distinction. You may steal it and throw it around. I make no claim. You have creative license. So anyways, that gets us to the good news, such as it is. The good news is the Republicans, the Trump regime, yes, it's authoritarianism. We are there, but they're weak. they will never have popular support. If you are seeing 11 million people marching in the streets on one day, what is that, like 3% of the population, 2-3% of the population, something like that? If you are seeing that within the first year, like that means things are not going well and you are not particularly popular. Like when you see I don't know, getting Jimmy Kimmel fired, or like raids with hundreds of federal agents and a freaking Black Hawk helicopter cleaning out an apartment building on the south side of Chicago. Like, that is not a sign of strength. That is a sign of people who want people to be afraid when they're not actually genuinely afraid. The sign of a strong authoritarian, what a strong authoritarian regime looks like is, some guy saying something seditious in the back of a restaurant, and then 3 informants calling it in, and then that guy never being heard from again 3 weeks later. That's what it looks like. It looks like everyone being complicit in the regime and its enforcement of order. That's not what we're seeing. We are seeing, mass disapproval and attempts to kind of create fear. And again, you don't need that unless you're unless people already aren't that afraid, unless you are weak. And even beyond like the economic and social dynamics of where they are, of where broligarchy is, like they have done some extremely just strategically stupid things as well. Like if I were a fledgling dictator and I wanted to control, to have power as long as humanly possible, there would be like 3 groups I would try my damnedest not to piss off. And those 3 groups would be the military, the police, and the civil servants, in that order. These people have been doing everything they can to antagonize, like the military. I guarantee you, the leadership is tired of being told that they're fat. I guarantee National Guard troops do not want to be, guarding Millennium Station in downtown Chicago for nothing, and being away from their families and their jobs. They don't want any of this shit. CPD, who aren't exactly like crazy lefties, they are getting tired of these guys. They don't want to deal with people randomly firing tear gas at preschools, or just shooting people because like they were backing up their car too fast. The cops are not happy about this either, which is amazing. That is stunning to me. And the civil servant, I mean, the Vogt's words have been was he wanted to traumatize the civil servants, and that is what he has been doing. That's what they've been doing. And that just doesn't seem strategically smart to me. But, what do I know? In any case, I do think these people are profoundly weak as far as authoritarian regimes go. But don't take that to mean that they are not authoritarian. And with that, however, I want to give you the bad news, which is that the opposition, such as it is also incredibly weak. It is weaker, if anything. Yeah, where do I start with this? I mean, 11 million people might have been out in the streets marching, but you still have to ask, like, what are they marching for? What is the project? What do they want exactly? I mean, you're going to hear the Democrats and the media pundits look at the last election from a couple of weeks ago, this direction, a couple of weeks ago, and say, "What, the Democrats are back, baby. People want the Democrats back in power." And oh my God, that election was so not about the Democrats at all. I mean, the Democrats are still historically unpopular. Last I checked, they were more unpopular than Trump was. They may have ticked up a little bit with actually picking a fight on the healthcare subsidies and the current shutdown. I imagine now that the grand centrists, the radical centrists, are trying to break a deal to get nothing and just end this thing, they're going to kick that popularity way back down. And by the way, I know Schumer is not one of the ones that have been named in the news reports. It's totally his hands on this. Dick Durbin, my senator, Dick Durbin, he does not take a potty break without Chuck Schumer telling him to do it first. He is the one behind this. Leadership is behind this. The surrender on the shutdown. Absolutely, I have no doubt in my mind about that. Anyways, back to the election. The number one issue was affordability. People voted for Democrats, such as they were, because all of them had enough of brain cells to run ads on affordability. That is why Trump won ultimately, and it is why the Democrats run now. It's the important thing to note is there was really only one person on any ballot who actually had concrete plans to deal with affordability, and my boy Zoran in New York, you will notice, did not just crush the Republican in that race. He crushed the independent spoiler that the centrists ran to try to keep him out of office. He crushed them all just by not only talking about affordability, but having policies and explanations to back it up. So yeah. Don't think that election was about the Democrats or how, it's not about the stupid goddamn team sports, go team go, rah, rah, rah crap. This is about policy. This is about what people need. And if the Democrats, even assuming we have elections next, and if you'd asked me a year ago, hey, are we going to have elections in 26 and 28? I would have said, sure. Yeah. Now I look at these characters and I'm like, yeah, I don't know anymore. In any case, I think it would be dumb to just take it for granted that there will be elections. But I don't know. We shall see. Assuming the best case happens and the Dems take back control in 26 and 28, if they do not have policies that make any difference in people's lives, particularly affordability, we will just be back here again a few years later. We will just repeat what happened in 21 to 24 when we had control of the government and nothing freaking happened. Right, so it's about the policies and it's about the resistance. I have been going with a certain kind of heuristic looking at the people in the opposition. I will explain it to you now. I sort the opposition into three separate buckets. Useful, useless, worse than useless. I sort the usefuls into three sub-buckets, and we're going to start with them. Who are the useful people in the the opposition? Both I'm going to focus on elected people, but also just normals, unelected people. First, you have what I'm going to call the line crossers, the transgressive opposition. These are the people who are stepping out of line, who are stepping out of their established roles to slow down the roll, to disrupt things. Al Green speaking out for Medicaid, right, and interrupting Trump's speech that. These people are important because they get noticed. You stick your neck out, you show some courage. It encourages other people to say, I can do that too. I'm right here. I can step up too. So those are my party leaders for the moment, such as they are. Those are my heroes. You also have a little bit of a step down from that, what you could call in the second sub bucket, the visionary resistors. These would be the people who are trying to come up with some kind of plan, who are trying to educate on the nature of the current situation on broligarchy and broligarchy, for that matter, and offering some kind of plan for how we get out of it and how we don't get back into it, and just finding policy proposals to actively unify people around. So this would be your Bernies, your AOCs, your Zorons, the thinky people going around, throwing around analysis and actual concrete policy ideas. Third bucket, you have your self-interested, sub-bucket I should say, you have your self-interested resistors. So these are your Pritzkers, these are your Newsoms. These are people who, I wouldn't trust them, more than more than 20 feet, but these are people who would normally be, status quo kinds of bros, not bros, often bros. There's a lot of millionaires in this rank, but they have correctly identified that it is in their interest to be resistors. So they are staying in line. They're staying in their role, but they're doing everything in that role to kind of fight the good fight, such as it is. These people are also important. I want them on my side. I just don't want them deciding what the direction of the opposition is going to be. Moving on to bucket number 2, useless. Useless people are not necessarily doing nothing. Often they are doing quite a lot. They are talking a lot. It's just none of it means anything. They do it to no effect. So the perfect symbol of this would be Cory Booker filibustering nothing for 24 hours and somehow in all that time managing to say nothing of any consequence. That is what useless looks like. These are people who vaguely understand that they want to be opposed to Trump, if nothing else because they're worried about primary challenges, and they want to look good in that light, and so they will occasionally do things that will get them applause from what remains of the MSNBC crowd, or MS Now, is that what they've changed it to? Whatever. Those people. But they don't actually do anything or take any risks or do much of any consequence whatsoever because they are lost. Because they have no direction. They have no idea what to do. Now, the reason why I think these people are important is because the success, structurally speaking, what the success of opposition is going to look like is moving the uselesses over to the usefuls somehow, making that conversion, probably into the category of self-interested resistors. I'll take what I can get. Third bucket, the worse than uselesses. I don't think there are actually all that many of these people. The problem is that they tend to be the party leadership, the senior people in the Democrats, and the richest donors to the Democrats, and also the most prominent media personalities. These are the characters who are, when they are not actively enabling the Republicans to do whatever the hell they want, these are the people essentially sabotaging, undercutting what the usefuls are trying to accomplish. These people have been in control of the Democratic Party for come around 40 years or so. And they've been running a great scam. The scam is basically they don't need to come up with any ideas, any policies. They just need to look at what the Republicans are doing and then say, that's un-American, that's crazy, that's cruel, and we're a new voice in Washington. We're going to do exactly the same thing, except, pulling it back a little bit. We're going to be a little bit nicer about those exact same policies. And that is what they've run on. And the best part of this is even if they lose, and they lose constantly now, they still keep their job because they can always convince donors that they are the reasonable ones. They are the principled civil, the West Wing kind of characters, and donors are always very happy to fund another conservative party. So their only real threat is any kind of genuine alternative on the left, because they've always figured, well, by just sitting here in the radical center, we can attract all the independents, and also the left are just going to come along because what choice do they have? Where else are they going to go? And that has been the logic, and it has done very well for them. They've made a ton of money, even as the country has become what it has become. Point being, these people's natural enemy is not the Republicans. It's not the Republicans. It is the left. It is any kind of attempt to organize a challenge from their left flank. Because if that really happens, that is the only condition in which they are genuinely out of a job. So these people, they cannot unify the opposition. Like, no one takes Chuck Schumer seriously. No one. The Democrats are historically unpopular. They don't like the leadership, and above all, Schumer, Jeffries, that entire rung of people. They cannot unify the opposition, but they also will not step aside. They will just hang on to power for as long as humanly possible, and so the terrible irony is, if you are if you don't like Trump, if you think Orange Man bad, and you want some kind of unified, meaningful opposition, Trump is not your first problem. Trump cannot be your first target. You have to make some kind of defensive moves, defend what you can against the broligarchy state. But you have to take down Chuck Schumer first. Like, the Democratic leadership has to go first. They have to be beaten soon. They don't necessarily have to be removed from power, but their back needs to be broken publicly in order for any kind of unity in opposition to really happen. And let me talk. So that's the bad news. The last boss might beat broligarchy, but the first boss is Chuck Schumer. And now we get to the good news, which is the small business owners, who I think might end up being unexpected allies in this fight, assuming things happen well. Well, let me back up and say, to the extent that you want to sort of break the back of the Democratic leadership, you have, I think, maybe, being generous, 4, 6, 8 months to do it, tops. And you need to get started before then. You need to get started now. Because once we start to get into late spring, summer 2026, we start rolling up to elections, all bets are off, so far as I'm concerned. Anyways, small business owners, genuine small business owners, not just that as a catchword for all the businesses, including the largest corporations in the world, but actual people, businesses that have at most a couple of dozen employees, a few hundred at most. Particularly distillery owners, distributors. We can talk about wineries. We can talk about breweries, retailers. These people tend to lean conservative. I would broadly say, having conversations with some of these folks, the people in the beverage industry might lean a hair bit more leftwards than other industries, but it's still, these people, they value their independence. They don't like taxes. They don't like being they don't like paperwork, especially. Above all, they hate paperwork. They hate dealing with rules and applications and fees and petitions and having to deal with office crap other than the work of actually doing useful businessy stuff. They hate it. And now, never mind that it's often some of the largest businesses in the world that have kind of put those policies in place to make it harder to be a small business and be competitive. Never mind that. The Republicans appeal to this kind of mindset. They appeal to this kind of thing. They're lying through their teeth, and I think a lot of the small business owners are well aware that they're lying through their teeth. But they're at least offering something, as opposed to the Democrats offering nothing. The same nothing that they're getting out of their apparent shutdown resolution agreement. There's a lot of nothing with the current state of the Democrats. Anyway, so these folks lean Republican. A bunch of them probably voted for Trump last year. Here's the thing. The policies of the left are business-friendly policies, and I've talked about this in the past. Like, what do you need? What do you generally need in some kind of actual pro-business, pro-small business policy? You want to encourage more competition and break up the power of trusts, monopolies, people who are engaging in anti-competitive behavior. You want to lower the cost of living. That means you have more customers willing to spend more money, and also more people willing to work for you. And you want reduction of costs of production kind of overall. That is what you want. And if you kind of squint and look again at all the policies coming out of, I don't care what you call them, the progressive wing, the socialists, whatever, they all basically do those things. Medicare for all is essentially a way to reduce the cost of living. That is what it does, and that is good for small businesses. Now, I will say, let me take a little bit of a step back. I'm not going to. I will take that step back in a minute. And also, I think it's notable that when Mamdani won in New York, he made serious offers to small businesses. He offered them, less fees, less paperwork, simplification of applications and stuff. Just, there was a emphasis on cutting this red tape that, again, came out of mostly the captured wing of the politicians. That was the offer, among other things. And one of the effects of this was Mamdani actually got an endorsement from the United Bodega Owners of New York. It caused a civil war in that organization that this endorsement happened. But don't miss the point, which is that an enormous number of store owners looked at this and thought, I want to spend less on fees and spend less time on applications. And they might have thought even deeper about this and said, well, hang on. If you make life more affordable in New York, which is Mamdani's big pitch, right? If you make life more affordable, that means my customers can spend more money in my store, and that is good for me. And enough of them went for him that there was a full-blown endorsement. I don't think that's an artifact. I think that is a genuine pitch you can make. And so, here's what I think is going to happen going into next year. This holiday season is going to be an ugly one for small businesses, including distilleries, distributors, retailers. They're all going to get just smashed. I guarantee you they're not paying that much attention to the daily shuffle of the news right now because they're gearing up for the holiday sales. It's when they wake up in January and they're just sitting on stock and like things, and they're still in the red from last year, and they just go, what in the hell just happened? That is when they are going to look up and start trying to figure out what's going on. And at that moment, and they will start looking for alternatives to Trump and the Republicans. And at that moment, they can look over at the Democrats and see Chuck Schumer in charge, confidently in charge, saying nothing, accomplishing nothing, and say, screw those guys. I'm going to stick with the Republicans. Or they can look over and not even see Chuck Schumer out of power, but see like a revolt, an outright revolt against that leadership that tells the small business owners, hey, we will give you free health care. We will give you free health care paid for by progressive taxation, and we will give that to your employees, and we will give that to all of your customers. And also, we're going to start going after your supplier, your big suppliers who've been price gouging you because they're absolutely enormous. We're going to start going after the big chain stores that have been trying to put you out of business. And also, we are going to, go down the line. We're going to make, we're going to build a new power grid and improve, water utilities for you. I think if small business owners see that, like, they're absolutely going to be willing to say, you know what, I don't like those woke people. There's too much wokeness going on over there, but screw this, I'm throwing in with them. That sounds like things I want. So you got to be fast. I don't know who the hell's watching this up to this point, but if you are trying to get some kind of plan together, you got to be fast. You got to start going after these people immediately, and you can use the momentum from the election to do so. These people are going to fight back. The less than uselesses, the current head of the Democratic Party, are going to fight back with everything they have. Even now, so the aunt of yours who still watches MSNBC is going to hear, like, over and over again, the results of this election show that the Democrats need to be a big tent party, and we can't have, infighting and arguments about and purity tests and stuff like that. And it is all nonsense. It's just nonsense. If you really wanted to have what big tent party means is the left needs to sit down and shut up and go along with what we want. If you really wanted to have a big tent party, you would pick policies to push that are overwhelmingly popular. For example, Medicare for all. Like, pick that to unite people around. But what they mean is just that we need to have a big tent that offers nothing whatsoever. And when they say no infighting, they mean it needs to be a ceasefire for thee and not for me. Because they are absolutely doing, already writing books, editorials, bullshit studies, showing that the left is wrong, that the reason why the Democratic Party is in trouble is because it's just too far left. It's too woke. And that will be the argument. Genuinely, that will be the argument. And they will act like this is just the statement of some fact rather than some kind of attack, because it's really only the left that can do the infighting thing. You see. So yeah, your aunt who still watches MSNBC will be told that the reason why Kamala lost is because she was too leftist. Do you remember when Kamala Harris went out and was like, let's give everyone health care and do away with this ridiculous private payer system that does nothing except take money away from ordinary people. And she also said, I don't know. Hey, let's build a whole bunch of public housing to push down the costs of real estate and make life more affordable. And I don't know. Let's put a leash on the billionaires and on corporations, and break up the trusts and reform campaign financing to make sure that money is not, the final rule in politics. And remember how Kamala Harris went out and said, well, we need to condition aid to Israel on and arms sales to Israel on some kind of basic adherence to international law. And hey, as long as we're at it, the United States is also going to start following international law because, that just seems fair. Remember Kamala Harris saying all that stuff on her campaign, and then the voters listened to all that and said, that's too woke, that's too far left. I'm going to vote the guy dancing to the YMCA song. That will be the argument. The argument will be Kamala would have won if only she had gone out to campaign with billionaires and ex-Republicans and talk up how great the stock market is doing. So you need to find a way to cut through all that bullshit and put these people back on their heels by January, essentially, and essentially drive them out of a meaningful position of power by, I would say, summer. But if you can do that, and if you can start to make meaningful pitches to small business owners that affordability is good for you, because Mamdani did it. My boy did it. Then I think you will see allies coming through. Yeah. So I guess that is the video. We're in a bad place right now. We are living in, if you like, a brutalitarianism. But there are signs of light. There are, if you like, there is a narrow path through. And it's going to involve coalition building around concrete policies that will make normal people's lives better, and by extension of that, make businesses' lives better, including the businesses of distilling, distributing, and selling alcohol. And I guess that is my conclusion. I have finished my glass of Chicago Cane Cooperative. I will be reviewing this soon. Thanks for watching. You can hit the downvote button below, and see you for a review or two next time.